Hey guys, it's Z, and in this video I'll be showing you how to code the motors for your EV3 Lego robot. The motors help the robot move forward and back, left and right, and they even make the arm of the robot move. In the last 3 videos, we finished setting up our robot, becoming familiar with downloading the code to the robot, as well as seeing the basic layout of your coding programs. Also, reminder that this is all coded on Visual Studio Code with EV3 Python. If you're confused with setup, please check previous videos. And unfortunately, this video will have to be split into 2 parts since there's so much to cover, but don't worry, this is all going to be worth it in the end, so stick around. With everything out of the way, let's start coding. So let's first import all the parts of the robot, including the different types of coding speed, the different types of motor moving parameters, the motors themselves, and the sleep function. So over here, you can see that for the motors, I put output B, C, and D. And just like how in the normal EV3 software, you have to clarify what outputs your motors are in. So you put the output after clarifying what type of motor it is. So over here, you can see that after, so this is the stuff that's importing right here. So this lets us know that we're importing. And then we put a large motor, so we know that we're importing a large motor. And then we input output B, so now we know that this motor has been imported. We also import the speed, but we'll talk about that later. And we import move steering, the medium motor, and move tank, and we also import the sleep parameter. We then put our variables. So these are the variables over here. These variables in the code let us know what motor is which, and the variables put the different controls and motors in a more simplified manner when coding. So for example, you can see that left motor, right motor, and arm motor, and the 2 types of motor pairs, you can see those right here. If you're familiar with EV3, you notice the tank pair and steer pair over here. As you can see, it's easier to know which motor is which, so we know this is left motor for output B, right motor is output C, and then the arm is output D. So now let's talk about the large motors. So usually you want the large motors to do multiple things. Turn a certain amount of degrees or rotations, or turn the wheels at a certain angle. Or you might want to have your motors move at a certain speed. You also may want to move the motor for a certain amount of time, or you just want the motor to stop. We can do this in our coding. So first, let's learn how to move the robot at a certain amount of degrees or rotations. Side note, one rotation is 360 degrees. So say we want the left motor to move. So remember the left motor over here. Okay, so we made this. So that's a variable. So we put that first. So let's go over here. We put left underscore motor, as you can see. So then we want to set what type of measurement the motor will go in. So as you know, you can use degrees, rotations, or you can use time, but we'll do that later. So the code to make the robot turn in degrees is the code on underscore 4 underscore degrees. So to set the left motor to degrees, just type the variable. So we put the variable, and then we put dot on underscore 4 underscore degrees. Okay, so we've now set it for degrees. And then if you want to put rotations, just instead replace degrees for rotations, or if you want to do with seconds, you can replace degrees for seconds. So after you do this, put your parentheses. So inside the parentheses, you have 2 to 3 values you can put in there to control the motors. So you can put the speed, the amount of degrees, and the ability to put brake. So I will not be showing you the last value since it's not very needed because we don't use the brake very much. So if you watched the last video, you know you can put the names of each value inside the parentheses and it will not affect the code. So for example, the first value is always speed. So you can put speed equals, okay? And so since it's blue, it doesn't really affect the code. And then you can put whatever value you want. So let's put 50, for example. There you go. So now you know that the speed is 50. So you can get rid of the speed equals if you want. In my opinion, it's much better that you keep it. So not only can you remember the value for yourself, but also others can understand your code better. So then you put a comma. So we put a comma there. And make sure you put a space. And then you put your next value, which is degrees. So then we'll put degrees. And this might change if you have rotations or time or seconds. And you'll just put it there. So then we put our degrees. So let's, for example, put 180. Now we have 180. Make sure that these 2 values are enclosed with the parentheses. So now we got our first piece of code. Now we know that the left motor is on for degrees, the speed is 50, and it'll move 180 degrees. So nice. We now know how to code a single motor to move. Extra code here. Okay, so we're going to add some extra code to make the robot wait, sleep, or rest, whatever you want to call it. So put the sleep command. So let's put sleep. So over here, remember we imported sleep. So that's kind of like the rest command. We put sleep, and then we put parentheses. And then inside the parentheses, put the amount of seconds you want it. So you can see put the amount of seconds you want the robot to wait for. So let's put 1 here, for example. We can also make the robot move with a speed of degrees per second, so it's not just speed 50. Remember when we were importing different types of speed over here? The speed DPS means speed degrees per second. And then we also have speed RPS, which is speed rotations per second. I'm pretty sure speed RPM is speed rotations per minute, but we're not going to do that this time. So to incorporate these into our code, do what we did before with the variable for the type of motor. So let's put the type of motor. So let's put left motor. And you can also press tab to autofill. So that makes it much easier. And then we put the on underscore for degrees or rotations if you want, whatever you want. And then put your parentheses. And then like always, the speed value is always first. So let's put speed equals. For speed, remember we want to incorporate one of these. So this time we're going to include speed degrees per second since we have speed is on for degrees. So the speed will be speed DPS. And then beside that, we will put the value for the degrees per second. So how many degrees per second do we want? So let's put 500. Now we know that the speed for this piece of code will be 500 degrees per second. Then like normal, we'll put our value for degrees. So let's put degrees equals, and then our value. So let's say 180. So now we will have the degrees for that code in this speed. So in 500 degrees per second, we will go 180 degrees in that speed. I'll also give you an example for rotations if you want. So there, we got an example for our right motor. Remember, we can also do this for our arm motor as well. Even though it's a medium motor, not a large motor, it still is the same exact thing. So let's do it. So there we have it for our arm motor. It's no different than any of the other motors, even though it's a medium motor. So this will be marking the end of the video. As I said at the beginning, this will have to be split into 2 parts because there's a lot of material concerning motors in Python. So in the next video, we will be doing move tank and move steering, which is where you drive with both of your wheels at the same time. And so we'll do that in the next. Bye! Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel for more on our 2020 to 2021 FLL season, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!